My name is Kristen McAdams. I am the host of the Psychology podcast, media partner here at Biohackers World, and I'm also an integrative mental health therapist, which means I am ecstatic to interview Dr. Patrick Porter. BrainTap. I cannot wait to tell me everything about BrainTap. I know I've tried it, and it is a phenomenal technology. And as a mental health therapist, any way that I can find that people can have a different experience in their own minds and bodies is just so important. So thank you for providing that. And please tell us.
You're welcome. Yeah. Well, we invented the technology back in the 80s to help actually people with pain. You know, you think before opioids, they were looking for solutions, and we were doing biofeedback. You know, we were making the hands warm, get rid of headaches, and doing breathing exercises. And what we're finding is people are in so much pain, they couldn't even do these simple exercises. So we started looking at doing candle meditations. You know, this is one of the solutions. And what we found was that this was way before people started talking about epigenetics and that. We didn't know what was happening, but the brain would actually sync to an alpha state. And my dad was a Silva instructor, so that was a big deal. If you get somebody to alpha, we know if you get them to alpha, their headaches are going to go away. Their pain in their body is going to go away because the body has a naturally releasing analgesia that happens when you're in those states. And if you get too high beta, that's why people in high stress get more pain because pain only happens in one brainwave state. Beta. You don't feel pain in the other. So
and pain is an input, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's no pain in the body. It's a signal from the body.
Yes.
But then the brain tells you where it's at, but the pain's not happening physically anywhere in the body, but we feel it in the body.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I've worked with vets, a couple of them actually that didn't have feet. One guy, he didn't have a right foot, but every time he went to the second floor building, he would get excruciating pain. And when we did the therapy with him, this is when I was in private practice, we found out that he had lost his legs jumping out of a helicopter at about 2 stories. So he jumped out of the helicopter, landed on a landmine. He woke up weeks later without his legs, but he had pain in that foot only when he went up to the second level. So his psychology or his brain was thinking, hey, I'm up at this level. I must be getting ready to jump out of that helicopter. And so it was preparing, it was actually giving him a signal saying, that's painful, don't do it. But he didn't realize it. And the only way the pain would go away is if he could fall asleep, but he couldn't sleep because the pain was so intense. So he would just have this incredible cycle of pain. And it only took one session with us doing it because once we got his brain out of that, we call it a neurological lock. So I know there's a lot of mental health issues out there today, and of course my background is psychology, but I think there's also a physiological. Now we're here at the Biohacking World because we know that your physiology affects your psychology.
Of course, right? Symbiotic relationship, they're inseparable.
Yeah. So we know people, you know, they go and start working out, eating healthy, and all of a sudden they become a positive person. And then we know the other side is they go get some help and they get positive, and then they start working out and doing their thing. So they seem to go one or the other. And I tell people it's high energy. So when we look at why most people can't meditate, only 5 to 10% of people do, was because, and we've measured this over the last 10 years, we've done scans on 30,000 brains, and a good number of them were meditators, and we showed them when you're meditating, you're actually causing more stress on your brain than you are
because it's going against the same that's,
right. Because the monkey mind comes out. And most people don't realize that they don't have enough energy to meditate. And everybody does yoga in America thinks it's a physical fitness thing. It was designed for a couple main reasons. The number one reason was to keep the royalty so they could have sex, to make sure.
One of the things I work on is nervous system embodiment for people.
Awesome.
And we talk about nervous system flexibility, right? Because a lot of people get locked into that state, and they, especially with addiction and things like that, right? You kind of seek out this repetitive experience that is imprinted, much like, the person that jumped the 2 stories. So you get that imprint, and then you seek out that same kind of pattern because it's familiar, but the nervous system doesn't know if something is good or bad. It's just imprinted. So I kind of look at the nervous system as being like the top of the waterfall. So something like BrainTap actually gives you that new experience, right? So that you can develop that nervous system flexibility and you can have a new embodied experience.
We actually have it in our neurocheck. We can measure sympathetic, parasympathetic, and neurohormonal activity. It should be a third. Like when people are doing it over time, when you're younger, it's always a third, but as we get stressed out, and so we show people their energy levels. And we tell them, I have a saying, I borrowed it from Mike Tyson, so everybody has a plan until they get hit, right? So even the best biohackers are using BrainTap because they know they're going to have to recover. And I use the example of just flying in an airplane to show people, because I did a scan when I use all my equipment, like Dan DeBond's equipment, like radiation, he made me a coat I could wear that's silver lined and all that, no problem. But when I flew across the country just in purpose, not doing anything, didn't do BrainTap, didn't prepare, just did it like a normal person would, just go on, click on, measured myself before I left, measured myself when I got to California. I lost 60% of my energy in 4 hours.
Wow.
And so you think about that, somebody's running around in stress, this chronic low-level stress that people are under, that's why they get home and they pass out.
Yep.
They don't have no energy left.
Right.
So, and they don't have energy to meditate. You probably heard the expression, my kids are too tired to sleep. Most adults, only 1/3 of the world is sleeping.
Yeah.
So that means if you're not the one sleeping, it's one of two of your friends, and one suffering alongside you, so that's the key thing that has to be fixed. So what we teach people is there's 3 different times. They call us a meditation tool, but it's a brain fitness tool. We're exercising the brain. In the morning, we need to exercise the brain with a brainwave called SMR, sensory motor rhythm. And a lot of people don't realize that's the one as we age that atrophies. It also has to do with the vestibular system. It has to do with memory and recall. So once you activate that brainwave, all these things improve. Like in our dementia study, everybody in the dementia study was off it within 6 weeks.
Wow.
And now we're not having that same level of success with Alzheimer's, but I think it's because they need more energy. If you want to start working on your brain now, you don't wait. You don't want to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough, because if the matter is not there.
And that tends to be when people do it, right? Like when there's like a serious injury or a serious...
They're going, I mean, it's not going to hurt me today.
Yeah.
But the reality is that behavior is going to kill you later. And if you let it go too far, it's almost like you signed a death warrant and you want to rescind it, but you can't.
You can't, yeah.
Because of some things. But I still believe truly that as long as your heart's beating and you're breathing and you're thinking, you have a chance at, because there's so many miracle stories. I had a miracle story. There's so many miracle stories out there that are unexplainable. It has nothing to do with any medicines or any techniques. It's just divine intervention.
What's your miracle story?
In 1984, I was hospitalized. I was working for a company in the plating company for the big 3 automotives. And I was cleaning a metering pump that was pumping bisulfite. And it's very toxic. And the electrician turned it on while I was putting it on, because this big siren's going off at the factory saying that they're getting charged almost $200,000 a minute, because that's how poisonous it was. One of the worst poison sites in the world. And so I worked in the waste treatment plant because I got more money, because I was in college. I thought that was going to be the way to go. So I didn't know it was so dangerous, And so I go in the hospital, and I'm in the hospital for a number of days. I'm just getting worse and worse and worse. I got to the point where they thought I had full-blown Parkinson's. I couldn't.
They're diagnosing it with all kinds of stuff, right? Yeah.
And then they say there's something in my bloodstream, they can't get it out. They're going to do a blood transfusion. Well, my sister in Silva, they talk about your guides. That you have guides and teachers with you. And she says, Patrick, I'm going to send my guides to heal you tonight. And then I'm thinking, all right. I've seen them in there. And so, but that night while I was laying in bed and I couldn't sleep, then that's really bad, if you can't sleep. I would sleep about 12 to 18 minutes is all every day. So that's going to make you psychotic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm laying there listening to the hum of the outside air conditioning unit, and sitting there, and a big golden being showed up in my room. And I was Catholic. I didn't know what this thing was. I'd never heard of anything metaphysical. I personally, I didn't even know Jewish people were alive. That's how good a job they did on me with the Catholic Church.
So much.
Right. And so I'm sitting there, and all I hear in my head is go to sleep. They didn't give me any profound message or anything like that. But I immediately jumped up, because I was at a Seventh-day Adventist hospital, because I was vegetarian at the time, and they're, vegetarian. So I go running out. It was Kellogg's Hospital, because I grew up in Valley, Michigan. So it's a famous hospital for health. And so I go to the phone. I called my sister, and I said, Shelly, don't send your guys to see me. It scared the hell out of me. And she said, Patrick, you're talking. Because I couldn't talk earlier that day.
Yeah.
I go, I am. Because I could always hear it in my head, but I just couldn't get my body to do it.
Couldn't say it, yeah.
And then she goes, well, what did you hear? And I said, they just told me to go to sleep. She says, well, go in and go to sleep. I said, I tried to go to sleep every day, and I'm not doing it. She says, go to sleep today. So I was only 24, so, still pretty hard-headed. So then,
I can't.
Yeah. So I go in and lay down. Next thing I know, they're waking me up at 11:30 in the morning. I slept all night.
Wow.
And
you must have felt like a different person after that.
They pulled the blood, and they came in about 20 minutes later, pulled the blood again. Then the doctor came in and the nurses are looking at me and they says, what's going on? And they said, we can't explain it, but there's nothing in your bloodstream.
Wow.
And they said, we still got to keep you under observation. So they kept me in the hospital for 2 months to figure out how they healed me. They didn't heal
Now
me.
you're an experiment.
Yeah. They were trying to figure out, how did this guy, what happened?
Yeah.
I didn't tell them that a golden being came into my hotel room.
Yeah, they're gonna put you into a different experiment if you say that. Yeah.
But at that moment I knew, and I knew exactly after that I had to do what I'm doing now. It was like just a level of certainty. And I was never going to do this. I went to school for electronics. But when people say, why do you have the BrainTap? Because my first love was electronics.
Yeah.
Even though my dad was a Silva instructor, I was not going to do that. But then after that, I said, yeah, I'm going to do that.
And what a beautiful combination of like the skills you already had with the experience, right? Your lived experience. Amazing. That is truly amazing. Thank you for sharing your miracle story. I appreciate that. I feel like it's such a vulnerable thing to share your miracle story.
I don't share it a lot.
Oh, thank you. I feel honored.
I don't want people to think I'm using it like some corny thing, that people do.
Yeah, well, and people get like really, so one of my passions is to get the wellness, mental health, and medical industries to communicate. And, we have all these stigmas, these social constructs around, and these ideas that are perpetuated in the media and things like that. And people tend to treat, biohacking and wellness as like woo-woo or like kind of off the edge. So I think when we share stories like that, they can sound, right? Like people are like, you might have like whatever, really? But then you're like, no, this is my lived experience. This is by sharing my lived experience and having this conversation, you get to actually kind of dismantle some of those barriers so that people can connect to their well-being in a different way. Yeah. Gives them permission, kind of like you got permission to sleep.
Yeah, I think it was about 14 years ago. I was trying to get into a neurological conference, and they had to, approve you or whatever. So you
got to apply.
Yeah, then I had an interview with them to get CE credits and things like that. And the guy goes, I don't think we're interested. Your device seems more like a toy.
Oh,
and then so I was, I'm going, wow, and I didn't realize that. But then his daughter had her child that was autistic, and she had heard that BrainTap had helped with autism before. So I said, yeah, we can do that. So we sent her a unit. Within 2 months, the guy that told me they didn't want me there is calling me up saying, can you tell me a little bit more about your device? Because my grandson stopped speaking. As soon as you get their alpha up to about 23%, 90% of kids will speak that have no verbal skills. And people think they have to learn to speak. You don't have to learn to speak. You didn't learn to speak when you were a baby.
Right.
Your subconscious knew how to do it, and it's basically, I tell people, all these brainwaves we're talking about are like Wi-Fi networks. If they're not operating, the body isn't operating. So alpha has to do with memory and recall. It's a timeless brainwave, really. I mean, you go back and get any memory at any time. It's not fixed in time. And if you stay in alpha too long, time itself will be suspended. That's why Einstein said, hey, if you're around a beautiful woman for an hour, it seems like a minute. If you're sitting in a hot stove for a minute, it seems like an hour. So it's what are you doing with your time? And they say as we age, the reason time flies is because we're not building new neural pathways. We're just taking the same neural pathways. So
you're repeating the same consistent things over and over.
So that's why doing something new, novel and different to create that neuroplasticity is important.
I never knew that was because of the brainwave itself. Yeah. Interesting. And so many people, so another thing I like to work on is with women specifically, right, is they get locked into these produce, perfect, performs, the consistency, right? And again, with addiction, right, you have the same pattern over and over. If you can introduce a new experience. So how does BrainTap tap into those alpha waves?
Well, we're going to use light, sound, and vibration to mirror that. And you're here because your ancestors and all their genetics made it this far. So they obviously had the best acuity. They could see, hear, smell, experience life. And so you won the genetic lottery. You're here, because there's a lot of other genetic lanes that didn't make it, right? Yeah. But you're here now, so that means that you must be able to handle this moment. But what's going to activate you?
What a beautiful statement.
In this moment, so that means that these cues in our world, like we go next to the ocean. Let's say you and I go next to the ocean. We're going to watch the waves, and this is beautiful.
It's my favorite thing to do. My ancestors are Vikings.
That's right. So was I. Yeah, I used to draw Vikings.
All right, we were probably connected.
Yeah, when I did 23andMe, I got a lot of Vikings.
Yeah.
In the process of sitting next to the ocean, we would start to downregulate our nervous system naturally. Yep. And it doesn't have anything to do with you can say it's because they love the waves, but it's because we're creating acetylcholine. As soon as you start getting into alpha, you start creating those neurotransmitters. Because as you go through the different waves, that's when your gut starts to make those neurotransmitters. That's why sleep's so important. If you're not sleeping, you're not building. You should wake up in the morning with a full tank of neurotransmitters. Then you can handle your day. If you got a bad night's sleep, you might wake up with only 10% of your neurotransmitters. Those are gone by 11.
Yeah, that's usually what happens to me at conferences. I'm only waking up on quarter full.
Right. So if we go to the mountains, for instance, and I still remember Varun out of Ames Bhopal, we had taken somebody on stage and a guru, we measured their brain, he did a brain map, showed what it was. We took somebody from the audience that had never meditated before, put them on there, and we matched their brain waves. And I said, it's 7 minutes going to do this, 12 minutes going to do that. How do you know that? I said, because everybody does this. Every brain does this. It's just the way we're wired, where we take the environment and we change. And if anything, epigenetics showed us is that everything changes.
It's flexible.
It's not like there's a fixed thing. And so after we did it, Varun says, you're cheating. That guru meditated for 25 years, and here you got this kid who never meditated. And I said, well...
How dare you use tech to...
That's right. I said, have you ever meditated to a candle? He said, oh, yeah, all the time. I said, that's cheating. He said, what do you mean? I said, it's a technology. Candle is a technology. It's not found in nature. But a bonfire might be, or a fire. The reason we get mesmerized by fires is that fire is actually emitting a 10 nanometer light, and it's resonating at 10 hertz frequency.
So it's sound, light, and frequency and vibration, right? So our nervous systems vibrate, right? And so does it vibrate in relationship to the different brainwave states? Is that what creates?
Well, what happened is there's a harmony of all those. Like Dr. Najir did it through auricular points. We use those at BrainTap too. We have light in the ears that uses photobiomodulation to give you the 7 different Nogier frequencies, because the body, what he showed in iridology was he could put it through whether it be a stick or seed or something to get that acupuncture point. But the body is connected in so many ways. It's like holographic is what they say. So we can affect the feet by hitting auricular points in the ears and things like that. So
lungs, kidney, liver,
In our doctors, we have 4,000 clinics using BrainTap, and a good number of them use lasers, right? So they were doing this laser therapy on the ears for this autistic kid. And I thought, and they said it was really hard getting him to stay and all that. And I said, I wonder if we built, now what they look like now is a lot nicer, but we built a crude setup, and these kids that are nonverbal, they're understanding. They're just not able to, and I understand that because what happened to me. In my head I could do it, but I couldn't get my body to do it. And but what we find is that when these kids start to mirror this, because our cells are always listening to the environment and mirroring them. So that vibratory nervous system you're talking about, it's vibrating at once. And have you ever seen a tuning fork? You hit a fork here, bing, and this one's 432, bing, bing, this one starts shaking because it's got the resonance. So that's the way our brain works. In some ways, but it's
like interpersonal neurobiology, right? You're picking up on other people's frequencies.
We also do. Shedding came out during COVID. Everybody thought, oh, the shedding. We've been shedding since the dawn of history. Our body is emitting 10 nanometer light, and within that's all the information of who you are. So even though we're sitting here talking on a conscious level, this is only one level of our communication. There's a deeper level where our cells are dancing and talking and having these conversations, and we don't even know about it. Because there's going to be quantum entanglement now, because we're now in a movie together or a film. So all these
linked
things
forever.
That's right.
Dr. Ford is my new best friend.
So all this is happening, and it's actually being broadcast by our nervous system. And if you stay, every cell has a transmitter and receiver. And when you think about even our sun is projecting information to our body. That's why if we don't get to sleep by 10, we don't make as much melatonin. If we don't get to bed by 11, we don't clean our liver. If we don't get to bed by 2, we don't reset our nervous system.
There's like a literal clock based on light.
So the circadian rhythm is very important. So in the process, I think one of the most underprescribed nutrients on earth is light. Because people stay in the house. The lights we're under here in the hotel are not John Ott lights, the full spectrum lights. These are the cheapest they can get to put in this room.
Oh yeah, I had my blue blockers on all week.
So all this is influencing us, and also we need a lot of light. Like this room looks like it's bright, but compared to daylight, it's nothing. It's not even 1/100th
And does things like sunscreen impact that as well? Like when they're telling you to like apply sunscreen and things like that, people are like very scared of the sun now.
You don't want to use sunscreen if you can help it, unless it's a natural sunscreen.
Yeah.
What you want to do is get yourself some good colloidal silver and put that on every 20 minutes you're out, and it will heal you as fast as you get burned.
Amazing.
So, and it'll also repel the negative light from the sun.
But we really don't get, and you can get blue light toxicity too, right? Like just from staring at too many screens.
Right. Yeah, and that's because the blue light on those screens is dirty light. They didn't tune that. Ours is tuned 470 nanometer light. It's been what's used in beauty schools and beauty salons all over the world to take crow's feet out and build collagen.
Yeah.
So we've actually got a study done in New York. We didn't pay for it, but there was a group that did a whole research study on macular degeneration and how we help to reduce the pressure, which is one of the signs that gives you that. So as you think about what's going on with your body, it's all about light. It's all about energy. It's all about getting energy to if you can get energy to the place where there's damage. And right now we know uncertainty and fear are two of the killers of the brain. And that's everywhere on TV, radio, the internet.
Well, it seems like our whole environment is designed to stress us out. That's what it seems like to me. And I hear people, part of what you're saying too is that these environmental stressors are not in our control, but behaviorally you can change some things, but people blame themselves. They're like, I'm sick. It's my depression, my anxiety. I'm sick. It's my diagnosis. And they identify with that. And then I think I know that there's some research that says that just receiving a diagnosis changes the prognosis depending on how often they're thinking about things.
Yeah, we always tell people, and it's hard to explain to people, but you're not this body. When you die, everyone will tell you, at your funeral, they'll say, she's at a better place. Even 2 weeks later, they won't say that. But everybody at the funeral, because they're facing that moment right now, they know you're not there. You look differently.
And they're soothing their own grief.
Yes.
Grief is for the living.
Yes, that's right. And so what I tell people is, you're that 3/4 of an ounce that they've measured when people leave. That's the average weight somebody loses when they die.
Yeah,
So you're the energy that left.
Yeah.
You left the building. You weren't this body. This is a spacesuit.
And that energy must get redistributed into the universe, right?
Reassimilated, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, your uniqueness of who we are in this life. I mean, if we did have other lives, if we were on other dimensions, we don't know that because we're here.
Yeah.
We're focusing on this. So it doesn't matter what we were in those lives.
Right.
I mean, in therapy, though, you might have
therapy, we like that topic in therapy.
Right.
We love the past in therapy.
Yeah, and it could be a representation of what can be produced, because if you don't learn from the past, you relive it. Everybody has patterns in their life. We all have a certain way we do everything, and if we don't like what we're getting, we got to change that pattern. And because you can't do the same pattern and think you're going to get a different result. It's like 2 + 2 is 4. I don't care who thinks there's new math that 2 + 2 is 5. I mean, that's crazy talk.
Yeah.
I mean, even though they're trying to convince us in school, that's what it is. I mean, it's the reality is the reality.
Yeah.
And our brain is always trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
And if we're in a high and if we're in a high anxiety state, high fear state, that's actually imprinting into our reality. It's telling us, in order to have this future we're thinking about, we got to be stressed and anxious. So we've got to figure out in our physiology right now, and that's where the BrainTap comes in, because when we overload the senses, that's what we're doing. We're overloading the senses, visual with LED lights, and they're doing different things. They're moving at different speeds, depending upon the earth frequency that we want to change it to, because that's the way we're designed. We used to be hunter and gatherers, and we would get all these different stimulus when we're out there walking around. And then, so as you do that, as you tune into that, the brain will change its environments. And then you got to find out, what in my environment needs to change? Because we know if we do BrainTap and they say they're eating right, they're exercising, but they're still not getting the health they want, it might be mold. Something going on in their house. Because our brain is really good about omitting things. At first you can get sick. You go, something's wrong. And then you go to the doctor and they say, oh, it's nothing, just take these.
You're within your normal range.
Yeah, so take these, and you go back home and this mold's still there. You're still sick, but now your brain has learned how to suppress it. And you're still living in the soup. And then 10 years later, when you've got this massive buildup of mold in your lungs and everything, you got to get rid of it, you're going, well, why didn't my body tell me? Well, it was telling you.
It was. You weren't listening. Yeah. Yeah, and that's why really learning to read those signals, right? Because the way I explain it to my clients, right, is that the body signals, but we cover it up.
Yeah.
Right? We're like distractions, other people, the internet, whatever, and that's going to get louder.
Right.
And everyone's like, why am I having a panic attack? And it's like, well, you didn't listen to those original signals. You were covering them up with all kinds of stuff. So.
Right. And if you don't take the time to do some kind of mindfulness practice or just sit back, relax, and review your day and process your future, your body's going to find a way to do it.
Yeah.
It's going to break you down.
It's going to stop you dead in your tracks, right? Yeah, it's going to lay you out. That's why everybody has a miracle story, because somebody got laid out. And, Yep.
The world is conspiring with us for our greatest success. We just don't know it.
We just don't know. We can't. Yeah, we feel like we don't know how to
kind of like
do it.
Matthew 10 or whatever. It says, all things are working toward good. When you're having something bad happen to you, you can't see the good. But I tell people, whatever the dark night of the soul is for you, congratulations, you realize you're in the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
If you can get through it, on the other end is your superpower.
Wow.
But you got to get through this.
Yeah.
Every superhero had to go through their night. They didn't believe in themselves. They didn't think they had
Hero's journey. Joseph Campbell.
Yeah. Right. So there's only, I think, 142 different ways somebody can live their life. They figured this out before.
142?
Yeah, something like, and they teach this in drama class, because when you play different personality types, they have the archetype.
Yeah.
And it's spooky.
Yeah.
The way that it is. Everybody fits into them.
And it's so interesting, because I always tell people, right, like, you're the only person that has had the exact combination of your genetics and your experiences. But that being said, we're all still human, and we all still have these same operating systems that we can connect through and have the same sort of results from if we experience the novelty, experience the meditation, experience the stillness, and that nervous system flexibility, or that interpersonal neurobiology. And it's been really cool at this conference, because we've talked a lot about connection. Yeah. That's been a main theme, and they really threaded through the wellness, medicine, and mental health without stigmatizing any one field, and that's really beautiful. That's been really cool. I love that BrainTap does that too. Like, you're so representative of this field, and I know you're like, Dr. Bard is a legend in this field. Like, he's famous. Okay, so that is so important to where we're moving in the future. So what are your hopes for the future for things moving forward, and what barriers do you see?
I think we're going to see more of this technology in schools as they realize that a proper functioning nervous system means smarter kids. It makes sense, but they have to change the whole diet structure. Get big pharma out of business, out of schools. Yeah. I think that we're going to see. Personally, on a personal basis, I think every home will have a BrainTap, because we're getting so much educational information back, and they can use it for brain prep. You can use it just for stress reduction. There's 2,000 different sessions.
Make it as regular as a cell phone.
That's right.
Everybody's got a cell phone. Why wouldn't you have a tool that would help you connect to yourself and others?
Yeah, and I think that there'll be like the saunas and things like that people will have, because we got to detox. I mean, our environment is just getting destroyed, and we're not overpopulated. That's a just like our brain and what's happening in the world. We don't have a stress problem, we have a capacity problem. If you do recovery, you can handle the stress. But if you never recover and you just have stress after stress after stress after stress, the body thinks that's normal.
Yep.
You're arguing with yourself, and your body's going, what do you mean? We're doing the same thing every day. This is what you've been doing. You don't do anything different, so let's just keep rolling with it. Yeah. Because you're only awake about 25% of your day.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
The rest of the time you go unconscious. Yeah. You're just doing things automatically. Did I do that? Did I put my glasses over there? Did I have a drink of water? Did I drive across town? All these things are happening because you let your subconscious run the show. Yeah. And that's the truth. That's who's running the show. And Bruce Lipton, in his book, Biology of Belief, he tells you that 95% of what happens to you is ran by your subconscious mind. But most people are using their 5% brain to try to change everything.
Thinking that's the whole picture.
It'd be like going to the front desk administrator at your medical clinic and telling you wanted some procedures. They would say, you got to go see the boss. You got to see the doctor. Yeah. But we're telling the wrong person.
Yeah. They're like, defer to your ego. And your ego's like, I'm going to go create a problem that I can solve myself. So I can stay relevant.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, instead of tapping into your subconscious and letting that stuff come up. Right. Thank you so much for your time. This has been such a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate everything that you have done with BrainTap, and like what you're giving to the community and what you're healing for people it's truly incredible. So I'm honored to be able to have this conversation with you, and thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you.
Unlock your full potential at the Biohackers World Conference Expo in Los Angeles on March 29th and 30th. Connect with leaders in health optimization, learn the secrets to longevity, boost your performance, and dive into the latest biohacking and wellness innovations. Don't miss out. Tickets are going fast.